Well, hey guys, it's Darwin and it's time for another how I pack my gear video. Except this time, instead of how I get all of my gear into something as small as a 35-liter pack, I'm gonna be breaking down my full setup for 19 days in the Alaskan wilderness. All of my backpacking gear, camera equipment, 6 days of food, fuel, water, and a full rafting setup, all inside of this one backpack. All right, so typically in one of these videos, I would have walked in, I would have taken my pack off and set it down, but this thing currently weighs like 50 pounds, so I decided not to do that. All right, so lately I have been gearing up and getting ready for my big thru-hike up in Alaska in the Brooks Range of the gates of the Arctic. And what's gonna make this thru-hike completely different than anything that I've done in the past is the fact that I'm carrying so much extra gear because of the type of route that I'm doing. So not only do I have all of my typical backpacking gear and camera equipment for shooting videos, but I also have a full rafting setup. That's a full boat, a dry suit, paddle, a PFD, and all the accoutrement that goes along with that.
Accoutrement? What is that shit?
Because on this route, going through the gates of the Arctic, about 2/3 of it, we're gonna be able to paddle, and it's just gonna make it more efficient for traversing the Alaskan wilderness. And even though I have all that extra gear, with the boating setup, with a fishing pole because I wanna have a little fun while I'm out there, you're gonna notice a big emphasis still on going ultra light with my typical backpacking gear. So my tent, my sleep system, my layers, because I wanna stay as ultra light as possible on that stuff because of all of this extra gear, plus so much food that I'm adding to my setup. And for this setup that you're looking at, not only do I have my backpacking gear, that rafting equipment, camera equipment, I also have 6 days of food because that's the most food that I'll be carrying at one time. I have 6 days of fuel and a liter of water. So basically what you're looking at here is what I will be starting with up in Alaska. And in the past, when I've done one of these videos, I've started with an empty pack and then I've kind of put things inside the pack as I go. For this video, I wanted to do it in reverse. That way I can show you guys why I pack the way I pack, to show you how I'm able to stay efficient throughout the day, whether I'm stopping for a lunch break, whether I'm stopping to unpack all of my pack rafting equipment to get on a river, or when I stop for camp at the end of the day. I wanted to show you why things are inside and outside of my pack the way they are, just to make me more efficient throughout the day. All right, so to start off, let's talk about the outside of the pack. Now, obviously you can see on the outside, on the front and the sides, I have a lot of my rafting equipment. And that's for a couple different reasons. One, it's big and it's bulky and it's not gonna fit inside the pack with everything else, but also there's certain things that are gonna get super dirty, are gonna get super wet, and I want to make sure they can dry out fast. So starting with the front, you'll notice I have this thing, which is actually a piece of piping to make the deck on my raft rigid. So I use an ultralight skirt, also known as a gasket, to keep water out. That's what this is. So I have that just kind of sitting on the front, attached to a part of my paddle. Next up is going to be my PFD, or life jacket, my personal flotation device. And for this pack, I actually custom designed this pack to be able to run more of a daisy chain setup and be able to strap things to the front. So I guess let's go over the pack. This pack is a custom pack made by my company, Evolve Supply Co., and it's a 70-liter framed roll top pack. Basically, this is just a big version of a pack that we make called the Space Ranger, except for it's 70 liters instead of 50. It has more of a burly, rigid frame on the inside to carry that extra weight, and it has little features like this daisy chain going down the side so I can strap stuff to the front. So like I said, I have the PFD up here, and it's just really put on here by shot cord. The PFD is right there on the front that I can easily grab to put on before I start rafting. Next up is going to be a bunch of parts of my paddle. So the paddle that I use is actually a 4-piece paddle. So up here in the front, there are the actual paddle pieces themselves. So I have those two sitting up here in my big front pocket. They nicely go in there. Then on the side here, I have the other 2 pieces of the paddle. Like I said, it's a 4-piece. The next thing that I'm gonna have in my front pocket are things that I wanna be able to grab throughout the day quickly. So on this side, I'm gonna have my kind of extra fun piece, which is a fishing pole. This is a little Tenkara fishing pole that I'm gonna be carrying. Next up is something that, it's not really something I'm gonna use throughout the day, but something I'm gonna use at the end of the day, which is a trekking pole extender for my tent. Next up in here is going to be one of the most important things that I'm going to need throughout the day, and that is going to be my trowel for digging a proper cat hole. Not only that, I also have my tent stakes in here. So I always keep my tent stakes and my trowel on the outside because odds are the tent stakes are going to get dirty and the trowel is probably going to be dirty too. So I have those right there in the front pocket, and that pretty much takes care of the front of the pack. Next up is going to be some of the things that I have on the side. So I know you can't see down here, but in my first side pocket, I have my water filter. So a 1 liter soft bag and my actual filter, so I can easily grab that throughout the day and filter water. The other thing that's in that side pocket are my sunglasses. Something I want to be able to grab and throw on real quick, and odds are I'm going to be wearing them throughout the day most days, but I can have my regular glasses in case it starts getting dark to easily grab that on the side. We turn it around here to the other side. Like I said, it's a heavy pack. First off, I have my tripod. Again, I carry a heavier camera. I want to be able to get nice shots, and for this trip in particular, I'm going to be shooting some photos and video to be able to produce something. I'm not sure if I want to do a series or if I want to do a full film, but I have a full-size tripod in here. So my tripod right there on the side. I have my 1 liter water bottle. This is the new Canuck Thru bottle. This is a prototype that I've been testing. So it's a mix between a smart water bottle and a Nalgene. I just wanted something that was a little more durable for the Alaskan wilderness, and just something that I can kind of throw stickers on and stuff like that on my travels. So that's the water bottle I'm going to be using. And then the other thing that I have in my side pocket is my bottle of fuel. So right now I have about 8 ounces of denatured alcohol in this because I am going to be using an alcohol stove. So I have that fuel on the outside to make sure it doesn't leak on the inside of my pack, and something I can easily fill up when I stop for my resupplies at Bush Plains to just be able to top this off with some more fuel. And that pretty much takes care of my side pockets, both my side pockets and my front pocket. Now, the only other thing that's on my front are kind of what's up here to be able to quickly access throughout the day, kind of on my harness. So typically right here, I would keep my camera. I don't have it attached right now, but my camera sits up there right on my shoulder strap that I can easily grab real quick. And that is a PD capture clip to be able to hold my camera. On this side, I have my Garmin Mini 2 GPS. It's hanging right there to make sure it's at the ready in case I need to send a message to, say, a bush plane drop, if there's an emergency, or I'm able to send out a message to my wife. That's right there. And then typically in this pocket, I keep 2 things, a tube of chapstick and my cell phone. Now, I am using my cell phone to navigate for this trip, so having that right there next to the GPS is a pretty good setup for me because I'm able to use this in case I need to get a message out, and then I'm able to use my phone for navigation or to snap a photo or a video or something like that. Speaking of the navigation app that I'm going to be using when I'm up in Alaska, this video is sponsored by Onyx Backcountry. Not only has Onyx become the only hiking navigation app that I use when I'm out in the field, but they've also become a huge supporter of my channel and a huge supporter of this expedition up in the Brooks Range. I was actually able to use the Onyx desktop version to map out and plan and route my entire 400-mile trip of the Gates of the Arctic. Not only figuring out my mileage on land, but also figuring out the mileage on the river sections that I'll be paddling. I was able to figure out the elevation of where I'll be hiking so I know how much effort I have to put out, and figure out and plan my resupply points to be able to give a bush plane pilot's coordinates and figure out where I can actually get more food. Then I was able to save everything onto the mobile version, and I'm going to be able to use it offline when I'm up in the Alaskan wilderness without service. So if you guys have been hearing me talk a lot about Onyx, if you've been watching some of my tutorials on my channel of how I plan and route my backpacking trips, and you want to check it out for yourself, check out the link down in my description because you can currently get the premium membership for 3 months for only $1, or get an elite membership, which is what I use, for 3 months for only $3, which is absolutely nuts that it's that cheap right now. So take advantage of that, check out my link, and try it out for yourself. I cannot thank Onyx enough for supporting me, my channel, and this trip up to Alaska, and let's get back to the video. And then the only other thing that's up front is one hip belt pocket, and inside of that hip belt pocket, I have my GoPro. For this trip, I'm kind of going back to the classic GoPro shots, kind of putting it on the end of my trekking pole, holding it out, getting a shot, and the fact that I can use this when I'm in the raft because, you know, I don't want to get my big, nice camera wet. So I am going to be carrying an action camera, and that's right down there in the hip belt. Easy access whenever I need it. All right, so that takes care of all of the outside of my pack. The only other thing that I would keep on the outside of my pack is in my bottom pocket. So this pack does have a bottom pocket, and in there I would keep snacks throughout the day, possibly a jacket or maybe an extra beanie or something if I start in the morning and it's cold, or a pair of gloves. I would keep all that stuff in my bottom pocket. All right, so I had to drop it a little bit so I could actually pull stuff out for you guys. So the first thing that I'm gonna pull out of my pack in case the weather changes, and let's say if it's kind of a crappy day, I would typically keep this on the outside of my pack, probably in my bottom pocket or in my outside pocket, is going to be my rain jacket. It's gonna be the first thing that I wanna be able to grab out of the pack, or like I said, keep it on the outside in case the weather changes and it starts getting nasty. Also, everything, you're gonna notice that everything kind of on the top doesn't necessarily need to be protected from the water. I have some items in here, obviously a boat that's gonna be wet, and I did that on purpose. But rain jacket, if it's wet, it'll be fine on top. So that's the first thing I wanna grab out of there. The next thing that's up here is kind of the biggest item in my pack, and that is going to be my boat, my pack raft. So the reason I have this on the inside instead of the outside of my pack strapped to the top, like what I usually do with the pack rafting setup, is because we're gonna be going through a lot of brush. We're gonna be doing a lot of bushwhacking in the Alaskan wilderness, and there's gonna be certain areas where we're gonna be very exposed and high up on cliffs and stuff. So number one, I wanna make sure that I don't have that weight on the top kind of shifting around really weird if I'm on kind of a dangerous little edge or something. The other reason is because we are going through a lot of brush. I wanna make sure that I'm not gonna puncture a hole or anything in my pack raft, so I have it rolled up inside of my pack. Now, like I said, this is gonna be a little wet probably when I go to put it up, but we're gonna be in the Alaskan wilderness. It's probably gonna be raining most of the time while we're up there, so I'm not really that concerned about it. Plus, typically before I put up my pack raft, I try to make sure I dry it out a little bit, then roll it up and then put it away so I'm not carrying the extra weight. But that is the first thing up there. That is my full pack raft ready to go. The next thing that I'm gonna have in here are gonna be my pack rafting accoutrement. So this is what's called a bow bag. So this actually goes onto the front of my boat, and I'm able to keep certain items in here because there is a dry bag, so I can keep my camera, snacks, anything that I wanna quickly access on my boat will be in this bag. But for storage sake, inside of my pack, what I keep in here are all the other items that I need for my boat. So most importantly is my dry suit. So for this trip, because it's gonna be chilly, we're gonna be on some pretty cold water, and I wanna make sure that I'm not getting hypothermia, and I'm staying warm, staying dry. I have a full dry suit, so that's in there. Next up is gonna be my pump sack, what I actually use to pump up my boat. Just a simple pump sack, kind of like with what you blow your sleeping pad up with. I have a set of dry bags, internal dry bags, that I'll actually take all this gear, I'll put those in here, and then those will go inside of the boat to make sure my stuff is staying dry. And then aside from that, that's pretty much it. Oh, I guess I have my skirt. So this is a full skirt that I'll be wearing, and then again, attaching that to the boat, the rigid piping that I was talking about. So all of that is in this one bag. So when I go to blow up my boat, the boat's the first thing that comes out. This is the next thing that comes out, so I can get all of my stuff, set my boat up, and I'm ready to go. The next thing is going to be my food. So odds are, if I stop for lunch on this trip, I'm already gonna have taken all of my boating stuff out. So the first thing that I'm gonna take out of here is actually my extra bag of food. So I have a full bag that has 6 days, but I have some overflow. And right now I have that in a odor-proof, what's called an OP sack or OP sack. I believe that stands for odor-proof. So right now I have some extra chips. I have just some extra snacks in here for when I start. Now the reason that I keep it in an extra bag is, well, number one, I don't have enough room in my other food bag, but odds are I'm gonna be eating this stuff throughout the day. So really this is just for when I start out on that first resupply. That first 6-day push, I have that extra food. By the end of that day, I'm gonna have eaten dinner, I'm gonna have eaten lunch, so this will not have food in it after that first initial day. And the next thing that's gonna be in there is gonna be my full food bag, which is this bear-proof Atotech bag. So this currently has 6 days of food in it, and it also has my cook system in it. If you guys wanna check out my full resupply video, everything that I resupplied on, all the food that's in here, plus 19 days of food, I actually did a video and you can check it out up here, or wherever it goes, if you wanna see what my food strategy is for this trip. So like I said, there's all the food in here, plus my full cook system. Now inside my cook pot is my alcohol stove. There is my windscreen, a little towel, and a little stand for my alcohol stove. So everything for my kit, aside from my fuel, is in my pot. The next thing that I'm gonna have in here that I wanna be able to grab quickly is going to be my Diddy Bag. Now typically I would keep my Diddy Bag on the outside of my pack, but since I have all my paddling equipment and I just have some extra electronics in here, extra items, I wanted to keep it as dry as possible, so it is in a dry roll top bag and then stuck inside of my pack for this trip. Now in here I have my extra battery chargers, my batteries for my camera, I have my little fishing tackle kit, I have my hygiene stuff, I have my repair stuff for my boat, I have my repair stuff for me, my first aid kit. So all of my little ditties that I need for this trip are all in here and ready to go whenever I need them. So maybe not the most efficient place to put this. Typically I would put it on the outside, but because I have so much other stuff on the outside, I kind of couldn't do that. But Diddy Bag is the next thing that's in there. So that's all the stuff that I would use throughout the day, right? So that's paddling equipment or boating equipment. That is stuff in my Diddy Bag, that's my food and my cook kit. So the next items that are in my pack are going to be what I'm gonna use at camp. So the first thing that I'm gonna need when I get to camp is gonna be my tent. So that's gonna be the first thing that's on top all the way at the bottom. The tent could be wet, it could be dirty. So again, I don't wanna put this in any extra dry bag protection on the inside of this pack, but the tent is there, easy to grab. This is my Z-Packs Ultraplex Light. Again, I wanted to go as ultralight as possible with all of my regular backpacking gear because all of my other stuff is so heavy and so bulky. So there's my tent. And then the next thing that I'm going to have in here is going to be everything inside of my pack liner. So I do use a Nylofume pack liner to make sure that I'm keeping all of that stuff extra dry. Now this pack is laminated, it is seam taped, so it does keep out water really well. But again, as I just showed you, there's stuff that I could put inside of my pack that could be wet. So I really want to make sure all the rest of this stuff that I'm only going to access when I get to camp is going to stay dry. All right, so the first thing that's inside of the pack liner is gonna be something I wanna grab probably right when I get to camp, and that is my fleece. Something that I can add a little bit of extra warmth to once I stop and settle for the day. So next up inside of here is gonna be my thermal jacket, or my puffy, my actual down jacket that I'm only gonna wear at camp. I have started using a down jacket again versus a synthetic jacket, and that's just because I want to try to stay as light as I can and get as much warmth as I can, and it's kind of hard to beat a down jacket for that, so I have started going back to a down jacket. The next thing that's in here is going to be my sleep system. So first off is going to be my sleeping pad, because now I have set my tent up, right? That was the first thing. I've put my warm layers on to get myself warm and possibly dry, and now I'm going to blow up my sleeping pad, because if it gets a little bit wet, let's say it's raining, it's not as big of a deal as the last things that I want to make sure that I'm keeping dry. So my sleeping pad. And then the very last thing in my pack is something I have done for years, which is what I call my last line of defense. So even though the pack is laminated and taped, even though I have a pack liner, I always keep my quilt and all of my extra clothes inside of a big roll top dry bag. So inside of here is my quilt, my pillow, my sleep socks, my extra shirt, my tights, everything that I want to make sure stays dry. Because if I get to camp I'm wet and I'm cold, I wanna make sure I can put something dry on. I wanna make sure that I have dry socks. I wanna make sure that my quilt is dry, because if everything else is wet, I need to get myself dry, I need to get myself warm. So all that stays in this Z-Packs roll top bag. And the thing that I've been doing for years is keeping all of those extra clothes in the foot box of my quilt, because again, I'm not gonna use this stuff throughout the day. It's pretty rare that there's anything in here that I would need throughout the day of hiking. So I'm only gonna be wearing that in my tent to stay dry, to stay warm. So when I get up in the morning, I put all that stuff in the foot box of my quilt, stuff my quilt into this bag, and then I know that this is ready to go at the end of the day. And guys, that's it. I know I say that's it, and it was a ton of gear, but that is everything that I'll be carrying for 19 days in the Alaskan wilderness. Again, the thing that will change with this is my food, my fuel, and my water, but everything else is gonna stay the same. And right now, with that 6 days of food, with a liter of water, with 6 days of fuel, and all of that gear, I'm looking right at 50 pounds. It might be 49. Let's hope it's 49. It sounds better than 50, but it's a lot of weight. But as you can see, there's a lot of gear to make sure that I'm staying safe and efficient out in the Alaskan wilderness. So I'm super jacked to get out on this trip and eventually share it with you guys. This is gonna be one of the most wild adventures and thru-hikes that I've ever done in the history of my hiking and backpacking career and the history of this channel. And I cannot wait to share these videos with you guys when I get back. Again, if you wanna check out that full resupply video of everything that I'm gonna be carrying all 19 days of food, what I'm eating, how many calories, and how I'm getting that stuff to myself up in the Alaskan wilderness, check out this video up here. I put it out last week, and I think it's pretty good for what it is. All right, guys, I hope you're doing well. Hope you're taking care of yourselves. Hope you're taking care of each other. I love you, and as always, thanks for watching.